All right, welcome back, OAI listeners. We are super excited and honored today to be hosting Cyndee Woolley. She's the founder and CEO of C2 Communications, and they navigate complex communication across government, corporate sectors, internationally. So from the Caribbean to Australia, UK, Canada, and she's had it 25 years in public relations, you all, and 16 years as an entrepreneur. So clearly she survived COVID and a lot of other things. And now with AI, she is the crisis communications authority. So she's helped in major crises and including Zika crises, which I'm excited to kind of touch on. But Cyndee, we're just so honored. So thank you for spending time with us today.
Well, thank you so much for having me, and thank you for that warm introduction.
Yeah. So, I mean, crisis to me requires like it's urgent. It's like you're dropping everything. It's up to date information, and AI allows for quickly generated content as well as agentic communication. So, what challenges are you seeing in just harnessing the speed and efficiency of AI? And still ensuring crisis communication, I guess. Right.
Protocols, and keeping things working, right? I think the biggest challenge is that in a crisis specifically, speed is valuable, but credibility is everything. AI can help organizations move faster than ever, but that content that's generated, if you're relying exclusively, it's not up to date. It's inherently not up to date with the information you're getting real time from the news media, from your key stakeholders, from important individuals. So I think that from a crisis standpoint, you can use AI to generate some of the historical data that comes, that you're leveraging and that you're bringing into that communication. And you can use it to generate talking points and really hone in that brand messaging quickly. But we really still need human oversight and verification in that whole flow.
And bringing in human oversight, the common term for AI is human in the loop, keeping a human in the loop while AI handles a lot of
Mhm.
the work. In the context of communications, what do you think AI is generally stronger at than humans? And then conversely, what is what are humans stronger at than AI at in communications?
I think AI is much stronger than humans at speed and scale and synthesis. Obviously, you can process this large amount of data very quickly. You're able to identify the patterns in data, summarize updates. You're generating information for different channels in a fraction of the time that it would take a team to do manually. And in that communication setting, it can be incredibly useful, especially when timing matters and teams are thin. I recently was working at an election campaign, and this was on a local level election campaign, and there was misinformation being spread, and we were able to, within 2 hours before a debate, um, bring up AI research, doing a deep research into public records to get the facts of what had happened and what had been occurring over the past 10 years. And we discovered all of the candidates got it wrong. We had that hard data. We had the votes, we had the information, we had the implications that brought to light. Um, Unfortunately, that flip side of where is AI weaker is that data doesn't always override emotion. And so, and there's two sides of that. There's the spokesperson that's organizing the information and putting it out into the community. But then there's that receiver, and how do they feel with that information? And are they going to receive the data as accurate, or are they going to take that as more misinformation because of the emotions that they're feeling at the time? So that judgment, the emotional intelligence, that's an area where we're still navigating how to infuse it. But at least you can have the correct facts. You can have the correct history that's not just a memory of what happened, especially when you're going back years into public data.
Cyndee, that was an incredible answer. I want to go back and listen to it because you so well articulated, the listening and the perspective, and that someone receiving information can have is different than what was intended. And so trust, and then you mentioned credibility, are this big aspect in successful crisis communication. So how can AI be safely leveraged in crisis communication while still maintaining that trust?
Absolutely. Trust is maintained when people feel that they're hearing from a credible and accountable and transparent source. So the safest way to use AI in crisis communications is behind the scenes in ways that strengthen that clarity and the responsiveness without replacing that human responsibility. Help draft an FAQ section, help summarize incoming stakeholder concerns, monitor sentiment trends, prepare message variations. If you've got your core messaging, it's going to be changed slightly for your internal stakeholders versus your external stakeholders. It's going to go differently on Facebook versus LinkedIn. AI is perfect for being able to adjust and monitor and allow the human being to focus really in on the strategy and making sure that responsiveness is there. I think that there's one area where I'm still on the fence, and that's with replicating voices, replicating CEO voices.
Oh.
I love the idea of being able to use AI to take that voice that someone knows, and as the PR person, the idea that I can type out that message and update the phone line and we can put it out. God, I love that so much.
Like music to your ears.
To not have to.
Yeah, but
that opens up so much risk and liability for the CEO. Dealing with real estate. I've got a client that's a real estate broker, right? And we face constant barrage of spammers coming at people with messages about changing their escrow accounts or changing deeds, and there's a lot of fraud in that space. And so strategically, I can't recommend that he put his voice out there like that, because it'll just lead to more confusion. So I'm still on the fence there, but a lot of good ways to use it for other messaging.
Could you go a little more into, maybe there are a lot of CEOs that are looking into these kind of digital replicas of themselves. Voice alone, I mean, now we're seeing like images as well. Like you can have like videos of the CEO. Can you dig a little more into like the opportunity there from a PR perspective, and maybe in terms of like acceptable uses or like some guidelines that you would give to CEOs who are looking to enter into that lane?
I think that you've got, if you're a CEO and you're considering going into that lane, you need to be very specific about what the types of messages are approved, and put out an understanding within the community of how how your messaging is being approved. We have seen some doctors using it for educational purposes, and it comes across really well. Um, I I think that you have to put really strict parameters, and you have to be really in touch with your PR team to make sure that that messaging is in alignment with what you intended, and that it will be deleted if you if there's a change or if there's a problem. I was talking to a financial institution recently, and they were looking at guidance for even just social media videos and authentic videos. And because of the regulations around the financial industry, they had avoided being on YouTube, Vimeo, avoided LinkedIn for a long time. They're just now getting the company established on LinkedIn. And I just said, you're very concerned about your clients getting misinformation, but if there is a vacuum and you're not putting content out, you have a greater risk that that trust is going to be broken. You have a greater risk that someone's going to fake you. And you've got a greater risk of losing people because they fall victim to scams. So,
Opportunity to get out in front of that narrative with social and with this.
exactly. So be out there. Don't leave a vacuum, and monitor what's happening with the AI and any generative video or audio content.
I love that. That was great. Are you mentioned, obviously those are great guardrails. Are you using AI every day just as an entrepreneur in the workday? And if so, what tools are you leaning into?
Oh my gosh, I use it every day, every day.
Okay.
I mean, from a standpoint, I use my note taker not just for meeting notes because that gets to be, very excessive. I use it for interviews, interview notes, and transcriptions because it's a lot easier to be present with someone that you're trying to get the story from and have conversations. And then you can synthesize that information in AI and bring out, the human side of that interview. But I gotta say, I'm addicted to deep research prompts, man.
You can go down some rabbit holes quickly.
I have maxed out my deep research probably 3 times in the past month. And so, yeah, I might have a problem with that.
When
I'm
you find the solution, please call me. I'm right there with you.
the data's so good though. It gives you really good information. And so I've been able to move projects faster with that. So slight addiction, but definitely moving projects along. Definite benefit.
Yeah, that's my own uses. It's just so many. It's like that ability to, you mentioned earlier, synthesizing is what it's so great at. Because going beyond like simple Google searches, it's like now you can kind of just ask these hyper detailed questions where you're like, I want you to tell me about this, and that, include it all, and get these kind of mega answers are so useful. What are some interesting kind of deep research topics that you've been getting help with from a public relations standpoint?
Well, I that election campaign was an ultimate, deep dive into public records that would have taken us probably 2 days to assimilate, right? 10 years worth of data in different systems. So that's a big one. We're actually working on authority building projects with clients and doing some back research into regular podcast updates, regular blogs that are more than blogs, that you've got the deep research to back up some of the statements that you're putting in there. And then leveraging that content into, longer form books, and being able to establish yourself as an authority, not just in one space, but using consistent language across multiple spaces, which I think is going to help people be found more on AI and ensure that they become the authority on AI. I have a client that's a nonprofit that supports a government entity and a corporate. So the corporate entity and the government entity both contribute funds to this nonprofit for education research. And that nonprofit started getting phone calls about issues that should have been going to the government entity as the main source. And the phone calls are coming on a weekly basis. And we're going, why is this happening? I did a Google, or I did comparative Google search and Chat GPT search, and I realized the nonprofit's coming up first in Chat GPT. That's where the phone calls are coming from.
There you go.
People are going to Chat GPT and searching. So it's more important than ever that you establish your authority and really create that footprint.
Well, and Cyndee, an earlier point about, people, maybe business owners kind of right now recognizing, oh, wow, this content, and being able to control part of this narrative by using social media, updating content, refurbishing these things. For business owners that don't have much experience with AI and a low budget, what recommendations would you give them to build that credibility on a budget, with right now the landscape?
I would say that your best investment of time is to learn how to prompt, and learn how to prompt really well, because I've seen a lot of small business owners, they test out ChatGPT and then they test out Claude and then Gemini, and they're bouncing around to the different platforms, and their prompting is just as bad on every platform. And so they're frustrated with the results, and they're not seeing where it's helpful, because now they're having to kick back 2 and 3 times to try and get the drafts updated and get to a final product. If you learn how to prompt and you really train one tool, you're going to have a much better experience for your brand. You're going to reduce your time inputs and your time doing revisions significantly. So I would really invest the time there. And I would caution small business owners from going to these AI summits and, picking up the latest, biggest platform. $3,000 a month, we'll automatically learn your brand and we'll train it. And the shortcuts are going to be very expensive mistakes. If you just learn how to prompt and just dig into the tool a little bit better, you will save so much time and money.
That's a real answer. Connor and I call that the sugar high of like, oh my gosh, like there's so much hype with AI, and then they buy something. It's like 3 months later, it's still not embedded into the organization. Yeah.
Yeah. You've got to really embrace it. And once you know the tool, or you know how it's working, you can collaborate with a contractor on a much deeper scale. So you can guide that contractor into a solution that's much more effective for your company, and it creates a much better win-win situation if you've got that element.
It's just such a good point of, it's easier and easier to pitch better and better AI tools, or like better AI tools, to people who don't use AI that much, when really the reality of using AI is that there's much more of a give and take, where you need to get better at using AI to have AI get better at, working for you.
Hmm.
And that's something that a lot of business owners need to just get acquainted with, which is, hey, are you upskilling in AI? Are your employees upskilling in AI? So if you're not, then, it's easier to kind of, be taken in by like, oh, I do need the flashiest thing. It's like, well, how well can you use it once it's implemented? That's such an important point. To get back to AI and public relations, one of the things that does seem to be just an emerging feature of the online landscape that business owners, public figures, everyone needs to kind of be aware of is the way that AI will make brand images kind of get out of your hands a little more, even more than the internet. It's people can leave a bad Google review now, but now people can use deep fakes or even have AI agents go out and review your product for you, and it might not be favorable. What advice do you have for business owners and just brands in general in it, adapting to this emerging landscape of not just people being able to say whatever they want about your product, but even AI agents and large language models like ChatGPT being able to say whatever it feels like about your product or service or whatever?
I think that uh, the emphasis around don't leave a vacuum if you're not producing content, if you're not building community, even if it's a small community, if you're a local business that has a community of 1,000 people that are actively buying from you, that's a very valuable community. So if you keep that community and people genuinely like you and you're present, they'll defend you, they'll recommend you, they'll shut down those attacks, and they will come back and call out AI for or AI agents that are leaving bad reviews. So I think now more than ever is it's a better time for you to be present on your social networks, to be aware of the changes that AI is bringing to the platform in that space, and really connect authentically with your stakeholders so that they're leaving the good reviews. And when the bad one comes in, people will know that it's fake.
So, and yeah, because it goes back to the credibility and authority. As PR and crisis communications, what right now platform socially do you advocate a client being on the most? I mean, I know you mentioned YouTube earlier and LinkedIn. Are those two platforms you feel that are, trusted and credible, or is because I'm thinking in my TikTok, I've always had a challenge with. I am a big believer you need to get on TikTok if you sell or are doing e-commerce. And there's been, challenges with, hey, is this a trusted or credible platform? So are you seeing that platforms right now have different trust levels and weights with your clients?
Absolutely, and it depends on who your end audience is, right? And where you're going geographically. If you are hyper local in a city, TikTok may not be the best avenue if the adoption rate isn't high in that city. If you're in Miami, Tampa, Orlando, Jacksonville, right? You've got a younger demographic that is using TikTok. It's perfect for you to be on that. But if you're in Waldo in Central Florida and your median population is going to have 5 users on TikTok, it's not really the best use of your time. And so you've got to really look at who your audience is, and you've got to understand where they are and the best resources to get to them. If you are searching for a business to business relationship, LinkedIn is definitely better. If you are trying to reach moms, Instagram and Facebook, a lot better, right?
Yeah.
But we're seeing trends. I was just on another podcast, and apparently the sporting world is going more onto LinkedIn, and we're seeing sports players that are going onto LinkedIn as well. And so I do work with a sporting team, and and it's fun to connect to the players. They're not they're not nearly as active as a business development person, but they're on LinkedIn and they're absolutely there.
Well, you think about brand deals, possibly, business owners that own those brands and companies are there. So it makes sense to me.
100%. 100%. My daughter's a ballerina, so
I do.
she's, yeah, definitely.
How cool. She's a professional ballerina.
Yep, that's what brought us to Jacksonville. She's dancing with the Florida Ballet right now, and she's a trainee and hoping to move in with the company. So it's a fantastic opportunity. But you know, as as a mom, I know what it's like to help her with her branding and going into that, Instagram reels and the stories and the posting. She's very brand aware, but she did grow up with a mother in public relations, so maybe
Yeah.
maybe had a hand up.
Well, Cyndee, absolutely. You mentioned a lot of these, insurance being one of them, government, some of these clients that we have, they don't want to be on social media. They don't want to be out there, but the environment is making it, a necessary evil, if you will, to build your brand, to humanize yourself. And so what is your words of wisdom if someone has right now they're recognizing they're behind, their company's behind, they need to build their brand? Or do you have any of those conversations in your meetings with clients? Because to me, it comes to fear, right? And how do you navigate that?
As the public relations person, sometimes I'm in a tough spot of talking to clients and telling them that they need to be out there, but then also critiquing what's going out there and trying to help them make their content better when they're doing it in-house, right? And so I think collaboration is the key, where you take an approach of really thoughtfully coming up with a few ideas, a few key messages that you want to get into your social media, and start small. Just start with small videos, and video content has to be out there right now. It doesn't matter if you're on LinkedIn or Facebook or TikTok. You have to have some video content because that's what people want to hear and see. Um, and really, I would say focus in on your best customers, your best stakeholders, your most important, most influential stakeholders. And the McDonald's CEO has been in the limelight the past week or 2 weeks with his video on I don't even know. I don't eat McDonald's, but there's a new sandwich that came out, and he got the blowback because he took a small bite out of the sandwich, and all the other brands came in after him. But my experience with McDonald's, marketing people in the past, and seeing their presentations and seeing some of their strategies through associations has been, they know their core audience. They know that the people that are bringing children to McDonald's are mothers, their families. And if you backtrack through this CEO, he caught some blowback on the one video, but the rest of his videos are perfectly in alignment with their core audience.
And that's what matters.
That's what matters at the end of the day. Yeah.
All right, one last question. Where do you see AI affecting public relations in the, let's just say, near future, or even just rest of your career kind of future? What are you looking to adapt to, and when you foresee how AI is going to change the game?
We're seeing AI really having a lot of perks and a lot of negatives right now in the creative industry. There's a lot of conversations about, layoffs, because that the AI can literally process data on a level that a low level intern or an entry level clerk can't do, right? And that's a change in the industry that public relations people are going to have to adapt to. And if you want to stay relevant in public relations and crisis communications, you need to embrace the tools. You need to really ensure that you're delivering high quality and keeping that out there. But there's a whole new opportunity for PR people in the authority space, because right now we've got thousands of businesses that aren't findable, or they're going to get knocked out of relevance because of they're not creating enough news, and they're not creating enough of that authority space to be picked up on Chat GPT. So that's a huge opportunity for entrepreneurs out there to really capitalize on, and learn how to help businesses be relevant on this next iteration of AI. So I'm frankly excited. I think there's a lot of opportunity.
I couldn't agree more. And Cyndee, thank you. This conversation was, again, an honor. So we will drop your company and your contact information in the show notes, and as well as your daughter's, the Florida Ballet Company, if anybody wants to follow her. I know that I do. And again, we appreciate you being on the Go AI show.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, thanks for coming on. See ya.
Bye.